There is an ache older than your name, a hollow throb behind the smile you wear in the sunlight, behind the voice you use when the room is full. It doesn't wound you outright. It waits, subtle, sacred, like a forgotten song that drifts through your ribs when the world goes quiet. You feel it when the laughter fades, when the applause dies, when the high of a new beginning wears off, and you find yourself staring at the same ceiling, listening for something that never quite arrives. We chase the echo of it through success, intimacy, knowledge, power. But no matter how many hands we hold or mountains we climb, the silence inside persists. And it is in that silence, if we dare to listen, that we hear the whisper, "This is not it." Rumi does not call this ache a flaw. He names it what it is, a divine summons. The soul, stirred from slumber, calling itself back to its origin, not to a place, but to a presence, not to an idea of God, but to the beloved, that which made us and still burns at the center of our being like a lamp veiled by dust. The restlessness you carry, it is holy. It is not proof of your lack, but of your design. You were not made to be satisfied with fragments. You were made to dissolve into the whole. And so, you wander, not in error, but in alignment with the architecture of your longing. We roam the marketplaces of wisdom, reading ancient books, repeating sacred names, experimenting with practices like they are tools to fix what was never broken. And still, we thirst, because the soul does not crave knowledge, it craves union, and each taste of worldly pleasure only reminds us that we were made for something deeper. We sip from 1,000 cups, but none of them are the ocean. The ocean cannot be held. It must be entered. It must swallow you whole. Even Ray, looking over the fragments of her life, said, "Only love has been my soul's companion." But this love is not sentimental. It is not something soft and sweet. It is vast, demanding, fierce as gravity. It is the call of the divine, the one who hides behind every form, behind every face you've ever loved. And from deep within, the soul cries, "Do not wait, surrender, for the sake of love." This is not poetry. This is command. You feel it not as words, but as weight, a pulse behind your chest pulling you beyond comfort, beyond certainty, into something wild and holy. The pleasures of the world, touch, taste, thought, they are beautiful, but they are not enough. They were never meant to be. They are reminders, not destinations. Love, the true love, is not found in fleeting joy, nor in the triumph of intellect. It is found in the breaking open of the self, in that terrifying, luminous act of offering your whole being to the one you cannot see, but have always known. This is the Sufi path. This is shock, the burning that drives the seeker forward, like the moth drawn to the flame. Not because it is safe, but because it is real. We feel the heat of it and still move closer, fascinated, terrified, devoted, because we know somehow that the fire is not here to destroy us. It is here to make us true. Rumi's voice returns in the stillness. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Not what you think you love, not what you've been taught to want, but what your soul has never stopped calling home. And when you listen, truly listen, you realize that what pulls you is not desire, but destiny. And the one who calls is not far away. He is within, waiting in the ache, disguised as your own longing. What you truly love, it isn't success. It isn't recognition. It isn't even peace. What you love, what has pulled you since before memory, is something you cannot name without diminishing it. something that moves like shadow and light through your chest. And yet you chase it, through work, through worship, through pleasure, not realizing that all these roads spiral toward the same invisible center. The world teaches you to chase with your hands, to grasp, to reach, but the soul was not designed to take. It was built to open. There is a deeper gravity within you, one that no ambition can satisfy. Rumi called this the pull of the beloved, the magnetic force of God disguised as desire, the longing that makes you restless in comfort and unsatisfied in triumph. You were not meant to settle. You were meant to dissolve, so pause, close your eyes, let the world blur. Beneath the noise of thought, there is something that still pulses, the same longing that moved your ancestors to build temples, the same silence that cracked prophets open in the desert. Feel it now, not with the mind, but with the body, the soft tug in the chest, the echo of a name you don't remember but cannot forget. This is not ordinary wanting. It is the soul remembering where it came from. The invitation is constant. Return, and yet, even as we hear it, we hesitate. We fear what surrender might cost us. To let go of control, of image, of the identity we've stitched together to survive. But the truth is, the cost of not surrendering is greater. The slow death of the soul that pretends to be full while starving. Rumi knew this. He didn't romanticize the path. He illuminated its fire. Try something different, he dared. Surrender. These aren't words of comfort. They are a blade, a tearing open, the gentle violence of truth. Because surrender is not weakness, it is metamorphosis. In the Sufi tradition, there is a name for it, fana, the annihilation of the false self in the radiance of the divine, not death in the way the world understands it, but a shedding, a burning away of illusion, of pride, of fear. What remains is not emptiness, but essence, that which was never born and can never die. Rumi himself knew this surrender intimately. Once a scholar, a man of learning, logic, position, he burned every title, every certainty, at the altar of love. I died as a mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and rose to animal. With each death, he stepped closer to truth. He understood. What we cling to is what prevents us from being free. And still, the ego resists. It whispers in the dark, if you let go, you'll disappear. But the soul replies, if I don't let go, I was never alive. This is the paradox. Only in surrendering the small self do we find the limitless self, the one that cannot be hurt, cannot be lost, because it is not separate. Conquer your selfish self, Rumi writes, then all your darkness will turn to light. But this conquest is not violent. It is awareness. It is gentleness. It is the courage to turn inward when fear arises, to meet jealousy, pride, shame, not with judgment, but with sacred attention, to name them, to feel them fully, to place them, trembling, in the hands of the beloved, and in that offering, to be undone. This is not self-help. It is self-erasure, not into nothing, but into everything. The ego wants to be invulnerable, but the soul longs to be known. And only when we are seen without defense can we be held without condition. So feel now, in your own body, the tension you carry, the armor you've worn for years, the fear of being not enough, not worthy, not loved. And imagine, just for this breath, what it would be like to let it fall, to release it like sand from your palm, to no longer protect yourself from the one thing you've always longed for. The beloved waits there, not in the heavens, but in the hollow you've tried to fill, waiting, patient, burning. The ego doesn't die easily. It clings like ivy to the walls of the soul, feeding on your fear of vanishing. It thrives in applause, in titles, in the illusion of control. It whispers that safety lies in being untouchable, that surrender is weakness, that to be vulnerable is to be broken. And yet, Rumi tells us, very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers will come up where you are. This is not a metaphor of peace. It is a prophecy of collapse. To crumble is to lose the scaffolding you thought was self, to let the architecture of pride fall into dust. The ego does not go quietly. It will scream in your chest. It will bargain. It will disguise itself as reason, as caution, as ambition. But beneath all its masks is the same voice. Don't let go. If you do, there will be nothing left. But the mystics knew the truth, that nothing is the beginning of everything. In the tradition of Sufism, the annihilation of ego, fana, is not destruction, but sacred transformation. The false self burns, and in its place, the eternal begins to rise. It is not self-denial, it is self-revelation. The gold has always been buried beneath the iron. Love beneath fear, clarity beneath noise, presence beneath performance. To reach this, you cannot fight the ego with force. You must face it with presence, with an honesty so sharp it cuts through illusion. When jealousy arises, you do not shame it, you name it. When fear tightens your breath, you do not run, you meet it. Each emotion, no matter how dark, is a door. And every door, when opened without resistance, leads inward. This is inner alchemy, the unseen art of turning lead into gold, not through achievement, but through awareness, through love. When you bring attention to what you once exiled, it softens. When you cradle your shadow without judgment, it begins to dissolve. Rumi understood this, not as philosophy, but as living fire. Cleanse your heart of all weeds, he wrote, and the wildflowers of humility, compassion, and gratitude will begin to grow. Pause now, not with your thoughts, but with your breath. Feel your chest, tight or trembling. Notice what you carry, a grudge that's calcified into your ribs, a fear of never being chosen, a shame you've hidden under layers of ambition. Let these be not your burdens, but your offerings, the sacred compost from which truth will grow. This breaking is not punishment. It is passage. It is not God wounding you. It is the beloved kneeling beside your ruins, whispering, "You are not this mask. Let it fall. I will meet you where you are real." The ego will tell you that worth must be earned, that you must prove your place in the world through success, virtue, brilliance, perfection. But the beloved already knows you, not as you perform, but as you are. Beneath the scars, beneath the striving, the light was never elsewhere. It has always been burning at the center of your darkness, waiting for you to turn inward, not to fix, but to feel. And in that feeling, raw, tender, unguarded, you begin to remember who you were before the world named you, who you'll be when the names fall away, what you've always been, beloved. So surrender now, not by force, but by breathing, not as an act of defeat, but as devotion, a soft rebellion against all that keeps you numb. Let the walls soften, let the armor drop, and as the ego begins to unravel, don't cling, bow, let it burn. For in that sacred fire, you are not destroyed, you are revealed. There comes a moment, inevitable, unavoidable, when you arrive at the edge of your understanding. You've studied the maps, memorized the mantras, whispered the names of God until your voice broke into silence. But here, at the trembling brink, none of it is enough. Because the next step cannot be thought through. It can only be taken, with closed eyes, with bare soul, with a heart cracked open by longing. This is the threshold where the mind falters and the mystery begins. Rumi stands at the precipice and asks you the question the world never dares to voice. How did you get here? Close your eyes and surrender. Not to a doctrine, not to a figure in the clouds, but to the one who has been knocking from within, life after life, breath after breath. The one who has never needed proof, only permission. To surrender is to trust the unseen. It is to relinquish the illusion of control and place your trembling self into hands you cannot see, but have always felt. The world calls this madness. The mystic calls it truth, because it is only when the mind quiets that the soul begins to speak. It does not speak in sentences, it speaks in stillness. And in that stillness, the doorway opens. Stop, open up, surrender to the silence. Stay there until you see you're looking at the light with infinite eyes. These are not instructions, they are invocation, a ritual of return. First, you stop, the frantic turning of thoughts, the endless hunger to be more, to do more, to become something other than what already burns within you. Then, you open, not your mind, but your heart, your ribs, your resistance. You let your armor fall in the presence of something older than language. Finally, you stay, you rest, not as retreat, but as revelation. And slowly, your eyes adjust to a different kind of light, the kind that doesn't blind but reveals, the kind that shows you in a single breath who you've always been beneath the noise. This is not passive. It is the fiercest act of courage, because to surrender is to stop building your own safety and step into the hands of the beloved. Across traditions, this surrender is the doorway. Thy will be done. Wu Wei, Tawakkul, all pointing to the same place, where you stop being the sculptor of your life and become the clay. Now breathe, not shallow, not fast. Breathe into your fear, the one you've been dragging through your days like a shadow chained to your feet. Maybe it's the fear of being forgotten, maybe of never arriving, maybe of being seen for who you truly are. Feel it in your body, not as something to fight, but as something to hand over. With every inhale, gather that fear. With every exhale, release it. Offer it into the vastness. What meets you in return is not emptiness. It is presence. A vast, quiet presence that does not explain itself. It simply holds you. In that holding, something inside begins to melt. Your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens. The storm within stills. And what remains is not your mask, not your history, but something nameless and whole. This is not a one-time act. Surrender is a rhythm, a dance of release and trust, again and again, breath after breath. A gentle loosening of the ego's grip, a soft prayer beneath all words. Take it. I no longer wish to carry what was never mine. Each time you forgive, each time you let go of needing to be right, of needing to win, of needing to be loved a certain way, you widen the doorway. And through that doorway, the divine enters, quietly, without fanfare. Like dawn, you do not vanish in surrender. You are revealed. The false falls away, and the real stands radiant, not above the world, but within it. That radiant self Rumi called the friend within. Not a concept, a presence, a living pulse. So now, rise from silence with this truth in your chest. You are not carried by your effort. You are carried by love. You always were. Once you've surrendered, truly surrendered, you begin to feel it, the hollowing. Not a loss, but a clearing. A vast stillness where the noise used to live. The soul, having cast off its illusions, now stands open like a vessel beneath a sky that never ends. You are no longer full of yourself. You are ready to be filled, and what pours in is not what the world promised. Not certainty, not reward, not recognition. What pours in is love, but not the small, sweet kind with boundaries and expectations. What enters is the holy flood, uncontainable, unreasonable, infinite. It doesn't arrive gently. It crashes through the broken gates of your identity and makes a temple from your ruins. This love, Rumi called it ishq, is not affection. It is not romance. It is the fire that dissolves the self, the ocean that drowns the ego, the alchemist that turns every bitterness to wine, every pain to medicine. Through love, he wrote, all that is bitter will become sweet. All that is copper will become gold. Through love, all pain will become medicine. This is not metaphor. This is transfiguration. What was once wound becomes wellspring. What once hollowed you out now fills you with a light too deep for words. Love, real love, is not an emotion. It is a state of being. It does not cling. It burns, and what it touches, it transforms. You begin to understand that every sorrow was an invitation, that every heartbreak was a door, that all you thought was punishment was preparation, the darkening before the dawn. The beloved was never punishing you. He was carving you, shaping you into something wide enough to hold him. You thought you were being broken. You were being made holy. To receive this love, you must be empty. You must stop trying to be worthy of it. You must stop trying to deserve it. The cup that is full has no room, but the broken cup, cracked, humbled, surrendered, becomes the perfect vessel. In your emptiness, the beloved overflows. Imagine this now, a cup of darkness in your hands. It holds your regrets, your failures, your forgotten prayers. And now imagine that cup glowing, slowly, impossibly, as golden wine fills it from nowhere. This is the work of love, not denial, but transmutation. And like the moth drawn to the flame, you move toward it, not because it is safe, but because it is home. The moth knows it may be burned, and yet it circles, yet it enters, because even to die in the presence of that flame is sweeter than 1,000 lifetimes lived far from its light. And what dies is not you, only what you are not. Rumi writes, I want to come closer. I risk my life for this moment of union. That's what the soul whispers when the ego goes silent. It's what you've been feeling in the quiet moments, the soft ache in your chest that's never quite gone. That's not emptiness. That's the space where the divine waits to enter. Place your hand now on your heart. Close your eyes. Breathe slow. With each inhale, feel a warmth gathering in your chest. With each exhale, let it expand. Let it wash through your limbs, dissolving every last edge of tension, of doubt. And as it grows, repeat inwardly, let me be empty for your love. This is the ancient prayer, not for more, not for control, but for emptiness, that sacred vacancy where the beloved takes up residence. And if you listen closely, in the silence that follows that prayer, you may hear it, the first notes of a music that's older than time, a hum that resonates not in your ears, but in your soul. This is the voice of love awakening within you, not from the outside, but from your deepest self. You are not reaching for it. You are remembering. Grief arrives like an intruder, uninvited, unannounced. It enters not through the front door, but through the chest, where your breath tightens and your voice falters. It doesn't knock, it tears. And yet, Rumi teaches us that this unwelcome guest may be none other than the beloved in disguise, not to destroy you, but to hollow you, to empty the last guarded corners of the soul, so love can flood in without obstruction. We are taught to fear sorrow, to numb it, cover it, run from it. But the mystic knows grief is sacred. It is the softening fire, the final breaking. It is the grief that opens what pride could never touch. Not the grief of sentiment, but the grief of surrender. The moment you finally realize nothing the world can give will ever compare to what the soul truly seeks. When Rumi lost Shams, his friend, his mirror, his flame, he did not collapse into bitterness. He did not armor himself. He collapsed inward, into the ache, into the wound. And there, in the emptiness left behind, he found the face of God. He began to write. Thousands of verses poured through him like blood, each line a prayer, each stanza a burning. He was not expressing pain. He was transforming it. He was building a temple from the ruins. I have burned the book of knowledge, he wrote, in the fire of my longing, and in its ashes I found the book of love. This is not metaphor. This is the soul's metamorphosis. Every tear became scripture, every absence a revelation. There is no path to the divine that avoids sorrow. There is no awakening without the wound. The soul is made deeper by loss. It is shaped not by what is added, but by what is taken away. And when all else is gone, when the distractions fall silent and the illusion of permanence shatters, what remains is the only truth that ever mattered. The beloved is all there is. Rumi understood this, that the grief that shatters your chest is the same grief that parts the veil, that in mourning, the soul is closest to its source, because it no longer clings, it no longer bargains, it kneels. To the world, this looks like devastation. To the mystic, it is invitation, a call to die, not in body, but in identity, to let go of who you were before love touched you, to be undone by absence, and in that undoing, to find presence. This is why Rumi said, "Let the lover be disgraceful, crazy, absent-minded. Someone sober will worry about things going badly. Someone completely submerged in love doesn't even see how ugly that lover is." When you are submerged, when you are broken open by love, nothing matters but the nearness of the flame. You no longer care what it looks like. You care only to be near it, to be inside it. So take a moment now, wherever you are, and recall the sorrow that shaped you, the person whose departure hollowed something inside you, the dream that collapsed, the love that never returned. And do not run. Do not rush to close the wound. Bow to it in reverence. For this too was love. For this too was the hand of the beloved, carving space within you for something vaster than you imagined. Place your hands gently on your chest and whisper, not with your voice, but with your soul. I carry your flame in me always. Because in truth, nothing is ever lost. Love never leaves. It only changes form. It becomes breath. It becomes silence. It becomes the very ache that brings you to your knees and closer to God. There is a moment on the path when the seeking begins to fall away. Not because you've found what you were chasing, but because you've realized you were never truly far from it. What once felt like a pursuit becomes a remembrance. You stop searching for light like it's elsewhere, and begin to feel it radiating from within the silence you used to run from. This is the soul's turning point. The moment when longing is no longer desperation, but devotion. When you are no longer trying to reach the beloved because you've discovered the beloved is not ahead of you. The beloved is within, closer than breath, closer than thought. Not an idea, not an experience, a presence. Quiet, steady, eternal. Rumi once asked, "Why are you so busy with this or that or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. Why talk about all the known and the unknown? See how the unknown merges into the known." This is the secret few are willing to hear, that you are not on your way to union. You are in union, but asleep to it. The journey is not a movement through distance. It is a melting through illusion. The fire you seek is already burning in your bones. The door you knock on is the same door through which your soul once entered the world. What blocks it is not time, not fate, only the veil, thin as a breath, of forgetting. And to remember is not to analyze, not to solve. It is to stop, to turn inward, to listen. So now become still, not with force but with reverence. Feel the silence not as emptiness, but as presence. The sacred hush that arrives when the noise has no more ground to stand on. This is where the friend waits, not in the pages of a book or the clouds of heaven, but in the pause between thoughts, in the heartbeat you never chose, in the space behind your eyes. And as you enter this stillness, something begins to soften. The grip loosens, the breath deepens. You no longer need answers, only awareness. No longer need control, only closeness. And from this closeness, a new kind of love begins to rise. Not passion, not desire, but being. Radiance without direction, flame without fuel. Rumi called this the friend, the divine self, the mirror of God within the soul, the presence that never judges, never rushes, never leaves. It does not speak in commands, only in the language of unfolding. You do not need to impress it. You only need to return to it, again and again, until the returning becomes your way of life. This is the paradox of the path. You travel so far to find what never left. You surrender everything only to discover that you were never truly separate. The pain, the seeking, the surrender, they were all preparations, ways of emptying the vessel, so that what has always been here could finally be seen. So now, ask yourself, not with urgency, but with wonder, what if I am already held? What if the peace I long for is not ahead of me, but behind the veil I've spent my life reinforcing? Let the question settle. Let the silence answer. You are not becoming whole. You already are. You are simply remembering the part of you that was never broken. The part that does not fear loss, because it is woven into all things. That unshakable core where love is not given or taken. It simply is. This is the friend. This is the fire. And it has always been yours. Once the light is no longer something you chase, but something you carry, the path changes. No longer a journey outward, it becomes an unfolding from within. The world doesn't stop turning. Pain doesn't vanish. The chaos doesn't retreat. But you begin to walk through it differently. Not as someone in search of shelter, but as the shelter itself. You have become the fire you once feared would consume you. You don't speak about love now. You radiate it, not as performance, not as philosophy, but as a silent gravity in your presence. Something in you has shifted, even when you say nothing. You enter a room, and the room softens, not because of charm or confidence, but because something inside you is no longer reaching. no longer trying to prove. It is simply open. This is the flowering Rumi spoke of, not a miracle, not a climax, a quiet blooming that comes from dissolving every barrier to love. He writes, "Why should I be unhappy? Every parcel of me is in full bloom." Notice, he's not celebrating perfection. He's naming fullness. The soul has stopped shrinking. It has stopped apologizing. It stands wide and rooted, even in storm. To love this way, without clinging, without controlling, is not softness. It is strength. To see beauty in what breaks, to choose kindness when you could choose distance, to forgive even when the wound still burns. This is the work of the flame. It does not ask for reward. It simply burns, because that is its nature. And now, your nature has changed. You no longer see people as obstacles or allies. You see them as mirrors, each one reflecting a hidden part of you. The one who wounds you reveals your forgotten pain. The one who embraces you reflects your sacredness. No encounter is meaningless. Every moment is an altar. This is why the mystic does not retreat from the world. He enters it more deeply, with eyes that see through appearances, with hands that heal without speaking, with a heart that no longer guards itself behind walls of fear. You are not here to fix others. You are here to love them into remembering. This is the new prayer. Not to be saved, but to become a source. Not to escape, but to embody. The path is no longer about getting closer to God. It is about revealing God through the way you live, speak, breathe. So practice now, not later. Not after the next teaching or the next breakdown. Now in this very breath. Let the next person you meet feel seen. Let the next word you speak rise from stillness, not from noise. Let your eyes become windows, not mirrors, not reflecting yourself, but offering light to another. This is not performance, it is presence. And presence heals in ways the mind will never understand. Rumi writes, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Now that those barriers have fallen, there is nothing left to seek, only something to become. You are not separate from the beloved. You are the lamp, and he is the flame within it. Wherever you walk, let that fire speak. Let your silence be a sermon. Let your tenderness be a revolution. Let love not be what you believe in, but what you are. When the fire has burned through illusion, and the silence has swallowed the seeker's name, something unexpected happens. The opposites begin to dissolve. No more dividing lines between sacred and mundane, between stillness and movement, between self and other. You step into a strange clarity, a living paradox, and it no longer needs explanation, because it no longer asks. Here, at last, there is no longer a lover reaching for the beloved. There is only love, vast, quiet, ungraspable, a presence that breathes through your breath, walks through your limbs, watches the world through your eyes. You are not guided by it. You are it. This is what Rumi meant when he said, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That field is not found through effort. It opens only when the mind has stopped dividing the world into categories. When every concept, even the idea of spiritual, has burned away. What remains is a wordless belonging, not comfort, not emotion, but vastness, still, alive, indivisible. You realize now that the beloved was never a destination. The beloved was the one watching behind your eyes, even as you searched. You were the door, the key, and the hand that knocked. Every prayer you uttered, every silence you feared. It was him speaking through the voice of your longing. You were never moving toward union. You were remembering that it had never been broken. Even joy and sorrow lose their edges here. You don't chase bliss, and you no longer flee pain. You simply open to all of it. Because the one you've found is not a feeling. He is the space that holds every feeling. The sky behind the weather, unmoved, yet never separate. In this field, there is no more story to tell, nothing to resolve. The seeker is gone. The search is over. And in that absence, paradoxically, everything begins. Not with fanfare, not with revelation, but with an exhale, a loosening, a return. Rumi writes, "Then, like a drop released into the ocean, all my sorrows vanished in the sea of your love. I am no longer a traveler on the shore. I have become the shoreless sea." This is not a metaphor for peace. It is a eulogy for the false self, the one who tried so hard to arrive, the one who believed love was something to find. You are the sea now. You do not chase waves. You do not fear storms. You hold all of it in your depth, and in that depth, even the small things become holy. A single breath, a beam of sunlight through dust, the way your hand brushes against another's in silence. These are no longer ordinary. They are altars, because you see them now through the eyes of the beloved. You see everything through him. You see as him. Let yourself rest in that now. Let the last fragment of effort fall away. You do not need to try. You do not need to rise. You are already here. The veil has been lifted, not by struggle, but by surrender. No distance, no separation. Only this, only love, only what has always been. Union, when it finally arrives, doesn't thunder. It does not break the sky open. It does not announce itself in visions or fire. It unfolds like breath, soft, subtle, ancient, as if it had always been there, waiting in the marrow of your silence. And now, the silence is no longer something you enter. It is something you are. The soul, once restless, once full of questions, has stopped asking. Not because it found every answer, but because it no longer needs them. It has become the answer. The seeker has returned to stillness, not in defeat, but in fulfillment. Not as someone who arrived, but as someone who remembered there was nowhere to go. Rumi speaks of this in verses that do not belong to time. Die before you die, so that when death comes, you may laugh and say, "What a pleasing way to depart." Because in this union, death is not an ending, it is a deepening. The self that dies is the mask. The self that remains is beyond decay. It was never born. It cannot be broken. It does not fear. It simply is. Now you begin to see. The divine is not elsewhere, not in the heavens, not in some faraway realm of perfection. He is here, in the trembling of a leaf, in the warmth of your hands, in the quiet ache in your chest that still whispers when all is still. The beloved is not something that happens. He is the fabric of happening itself, the thread in all becoming. This is the shoreless sea Rumi spoke of, the sea without edge, without opposite, without arrival. You no longer swim toward the horizon. You have become the water. There is no other side, no future moment of illumination. This exact trembling now is the Holy of Holies. And the miracle? You are still in the world, still walking, still touching things, still being touched, but you are not moving through time. Time is moving through you. You are not held by circumstance. You hold it, like a sky holds thunder, like a flame holds heat, not with effort, but by nature. And so you love now, not as choice, but as gravity. You forgive now, not as virtue, but as instinct. You listen, you give, you rest, not to become better, but because there is nothing else to be. The beloved has made a home in your breath, and every inhale is remembrance. Every exhale, surrender. Close your eyes now. Feel your chest rise and fall. And in the space between breaths, notice. There is no fear, no lack, no hunger, only presence. The presence you once called God. The presence that once felt far away, and now lives where your name used to be. You are not finished, you are infinite. Not complete, but unfolding. Not perfect, but whole. And love, true love, was never something you were meant to find. It was the truth waiting to awaken beneath every mask, every grief, every letting go. You are not the flame. You are the light inside it. You are not in the divine. You are the divine, remembering itself in form. There is no final arrival, no last page, no moment where the soul closes its eyes and says, I am done. Because what you are is not a destination. You are a doorway, a current, a rhythm. You do not end. You continue, like breath, like music, like dawn. The path has disappeared beneath your feet, not because it has ended, but because you have become it. This is the quiet glory Rumi spoke of. Not the ecstatic climax, but the soft radiance of belonging. You belong now, not to someone, not to something, but to the one, to love itself, to the beloved who was never separate, never waiting, only hidden beneath the layers you've spent your life peeling away. And now you shine, not brightly, not loudly, but truly. You move through the world without needing to take from it. You give not from effort, but from overflow. You no longer walk to become free. You walk as freedom. The light is no longer something you follow. It is what follows you, what moves through your eyes when you gaze gently at a stranger, what colors your silence when words are no longer necessary. Rumi calls across centuries, Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. These words are not for someone else. They are for the part of you that still doubts, still trembles, still clings to the old self like an anchor. But now, you know, you are not the one who wanders. You are the field into which the wanderers walk. You are not the voice calling them home. You are the home. Every time you forgive, you open the door again. Every time you surrender to what is, instead of what should be, you become the invitation. You are the prayer and the answer, the longing and the embrace. The one who once cried out to the stars now burns from within like one of them. This is not sainthood. This is not escape. It is the most human thing in the world, to be broken open by love and let that opening remain. To stay soft when life hardens. To stay near when others retreat. To be presence in a world addicted to absence. Let this be your practice now. Not perfection, but presence. Not knowledge, but stillness. Not progress, but devotion. In the hush between your thoughts, let love speak. In the pauses of your breath, let light rise. And when the old voices return, the ones that say you're not enough, not ready, not pure, smile gently and answer with silence. Because the one who made you never asked you to be worthy, only willing. Let yourself return again and again, not to an idea of God, but to the living pulse of love within all things, the sacred rhythm that dances in the wind, in the grief, in the gaze of those who have forgotten who they are. Let every moment become the field, Let your life become the meeting place. Let love, through you, call out, "Come yet again, come."